Community Conferences with Alvin Ashcraft.
The Azure and Devops podcast is a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using the latest in .NET, Azure, AI, and DevOps. Listen on to learn how to increase quality, ship quickly, and operate well. The show is sponsored by ClearMeasure, a full-service software architecture and engineering firm. Find them at www.clearmeasure.com. And now your host, Jeffrey Palermo.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jeffrey Palermo, your host for helping you and your teams move fast and deliver quality and to run your software with confidence in Azure, all while using everything that the .NET ecosystem has to offer. I have a returning guest on the show, Alvin Ashcraft, and he is a senior content developer at Microsoft. He's an author and longtime leader in the .NET developer community. With over 27 years of experience in software development, he's been recognized as a Microsoft MVP for more than a decade, which is really being honored for his contributions to Windows development, Visual Studio, and the broader Microsoft ecosystem. And he's currently writing docs for multiple Microsoft technologies. In 2021, Alvin wrote a book for Packt Publishing, which is called Learn WinUI 3.0. And this is the first book Alvin authored and has been, he's been a technical reviewer for 8 other .NET related titles from Packt. And he's a founding board member of the TechBash Foundation and organizer of the annual TechBash Developer Conference in Pocono Manor, Pennsylvania, which just happened very recently. Alvin resides in Pennsylvania with his wife and 3 daughters. And but Alvin, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on again.
Happy to. Appreciate you coming on. And we saw each other in person just recently, a few weeks ago at the time this podcast is coming out at the TechBash conference, because you've been a big mover and a shaker in that conference for over 10 years now. And I want to kind of ask about that. But before I do, I always like to ask the guests just to kind of go back and you love programming and you write about programming and you've been in the software engineering field for a long time. Is there something about it that kind of keeps you there? You've been doing it for so long and said, yes, I love this career. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and I think it's just the variety of things that you can do in the field that's kept me there. I spent the first, over 25 years doing programming, architecture, and now I've kind of shifted into the writing side of things, so that you can come at the programming technology from all different angles and, keep it fresh.
Awesome. Well, and 10 years ago, you even branched out and said, you know what? I think I can be a force to bring people together in the developer community. And I was just with you at the TechBash conference. For those listeners who don't know what TechBash is, you kind of give them the quick rundown?
Sure. So TechBash is a developer conference. It's a regional conference, but you can come from anywhere you want. Most of our folks come from somewhere in the Northeast U.S., so it's held at the Kalahari Resort in Pennsylvania. There's been a couple of other conferences at different Kalahari resorts. CodeMash, I think, is the most well-known at the one in Ohio there. But we kind of modeled ourselves after them. We're not quite as big as them, but we're Polyglot conference that kind of focuses a little bit more on the .NET side, but we try and bring a little bit of everything into it. And we love bringing developers together to go to sessions, go to workshops, and have great hallway conversations.
Yeah, nice. And you've been doing that with Jason Gaylord for a long time. And Andy Schwam also helped start it as well?
Yeah, he was one of the founding members, and there were a few other folks too, Devin Rader, Jess Chadwick, Brian Manisi. So a bunch of us started that.
Well, it was a great turnout and a really good group of people. So I enjoyed being there. And so
we had a really, really great time.
And any listeners who just go on the website and sign up for next year and put it on your calendar.
Yep, we'll be back in October next year, mid-October.
Nice. Well, in your opinion, because there's a lot of people who maybe they remember going to code camps or some of the regional things, or maybe their user group kind of fizzled out, and 5 years ago, a whole lot of things kind of stopped, and a lot of them didn't start up, and regional and local conferences, kind of one of those things, there's a lot fewer than there were 5 years ago. For somebody who says, man, I want to be an instigator in my town, what's really required to do it? How hard is it? What's the critical path in your opinion?
I think it helps to, have a network of people that you know. The MVP program was a big helper for a lot of us. Several of us were in the program when we started TechBash. Have those connections with other folks in the community to try and draw folks in. We did a lot of outreach on Meetup to other organizers in the area to, kind of spread the word. We'll talk about your event, you talk about our event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of, shaking hands, getting out there.
Yeah, yeah. And do you remember the first Tech Bash? Like, how different was it from what it's become?
Yeah, it hasn't changed a whole lot. It's grown a little bit, but we still have it, at the same location. We've, I think, gotten a lot better at putting it on each year. It takes a little less effort every year as we kind of get, parts of it into kind of autopilot mode. There's things that we just know how to do now. The first one was probably the scariest one with the expenses there at the Kalahari, not knowing if anybody's going to show up. But we've kind of mastered bits of it.
And it seems like you guys are the next tier. Yours is a multi-day. There's a lot of user groups in the past that have done, single day code camp where you don't even mess with hotels. You just, here's a place to come to. And maybe the most logistics is getting a sponsor to provide lunch because everybody's there. But moving it to a multi-day seems like the next tier up in logistics. Do you think of it that way, or do you think that it's not much more effort either way?
It's not a whole lot more effort for us. It's the Kalahari handles a lot of all the catering stuff and everything behind the scenes. So there's a lot more expense, and we have commitment to fill room nights and things at the place there for those 3 or 4 days that we have it. So, but they really do a lot of the work for us.
Nice. So what were some of your favorite topics this past time at the conference?
It felt like more than half of it had some kind of AI related stuff. Kind of interesting. Yeah. I didn't get to attend a whole lot of the sessions, but I saw a lot of folks were interested in, there was some Kubernetes stuff. We had some folks from Red Hat talking about AI. Their sessions were packed. I think yours was really well attended too. We had some good stuff this year. There was some good mobile talks. That stuff's always interesting to me. I like Maui and Uno, those platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, switching gears, there's quite a few listeners who subscribe to your Morning Dew, your daily links for Windows and .NET developers, and certainly those things get spread a lot with internal company Slack channels and retweeted and shared on LinkedIn. And we talked about it last time, but it appears like it's a whole lot of effort. When you look at all those things, one might say, where does Alan get the time to look to see what might be interesting and what's not? So tell us about the daily dewdrop and what goes into that.
Yeah, so it's been pretty well automated for a long time now, but I just this year just revamped the whole process to get some new, newer tooling involved. I used to use, if you remember, Windows Live Writer that later became Open Live Writer, a blogging app for Windows. So that's, hasn't been supported for a long time. It's open source now, but nobody's made any changes to it in forever. It's still .NET Framework and C++ under the covers. Mm-hmm. So I finally decided to move off of that, and I created a plugin for VS Code to be able to do all that work for me. So it goes out to, I use a service called NewsBlur, similar to what Google Reader used to do with feeds. I just tag everything in there each day that I'd like to include. And then my extension for VS Code just goes out and pulls that in from the NewsBlur API, does its best to categorize things based on keywords in the posts, and hit a button and publish it up to WordPress.
So you kind of have an opinion about what should be included and what should not be included. And I think
Right.
that's the magic, because you've got so much experience. You kind of know when, if you included literally everything, it would just be miles long and then a whole bunch of cruft not relevant. So you created this system. How do you get it so good? Because the consumers of it, when you look at all these things, are so relevant to .NET developers, and at the same time is not the entire list of news from all these sources. So how do you kind of decide what you should include and what you shouldn't?
Yeah, so it started out as my own kind of read later list, things that sounded interesting enough that I'd like to read it later. And I, of course, don't have time to read all these things, but it's things that I would like to read based on just the title and maybe the intro paragraph or two that I've looked at when I'm scrolling through my feeds. So it's grown quite a bit in kind of scope. It started out as mostly .NET stuff, and as I got into other technologies, JavaScript front end stuff, and now AI stuff. I have a whole AI category now. It's kind of grown into different areas.
Yeah, it looks like the AI category of the last Dewdrop looks to be the longest. So,
yeah, a lot of stuff kind of falls into there.
All right, so there's way too much. So you're checking things to read later. So I'm guessing your read later list never shrinks and it's constantly growing because it's hard to keep up. So of these, what's the indication of things like, okay, what's the super short list of I actually have read it later?
I try to read everything I put into the top links. Those are kind of my favorites of the day. So I try to read all of those for sure. And then I'll usually jump into the .NET category and read a lot of those too.
Yeah. So your first one of the latest one at the time of this recording, November 14th, your first one is Aspire 13, a post from Maddie Montequila. That's a big mover and a shaker. It's not .NET Aspire anymore. It's just Aspire, but for a lot of people, that's probably not a change. What stands out for you in Aspire? I have a few things, but
yeah, I think it's just really awesome how you can just plug it into a solution and just get a whole bunch of stuff basically for free. Your telemetry and dashboard and everything just hooks into your existing apps without too much effort. And you could use it in development and not necessarily deploy it to production. If you had concerns about anything in there, you can still deploy your app without the Aspire stuff hooked into it. So I think that's pretty cool.
I saw one of the sessions of .NET Conf with Aspire and single file applications, and so it's probably not Aspire directly, but it impacts it. With single file applications, the app host is in most Aspire projects. Well, a lot of times it only needs to be a single code file. With .NET 10 is really, really simple because you got a single file that just kind of stitches together the different things, the Aspire definition, the app definition, the app host, and then run it. So I think the combination of those really makes it simple to just describe what things need to be running with the application and how to connect them. So I look forward to playing with that a little bit. It literally just came out a couple of days ago at the time of this recording.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I remember you probably too. I took some Java classes in the late 90s, and the first things were with Notepad, and it was just create a Java create a Java class, a Java file, and then running Java C with the file, and it would run it. And now, how many years later does .NET finally have just that basic command line to have a C# file and just run it?
Yeah, finally. You can just have a single file and just run that code in there without anything else. It took them a while, but it's all there now.
Right. But I mean, when I remember when .NET 1 came out, and a lot of people with C, C# was new at the time as well, and a lot of VB teams were adopting it. But the naysayers in the industry were saying, "Oh, C# and .NET, they just copied Java. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, so anybody that has some good ideas gets copied. That's just how the world works. And so finally we're copying one of those early ideas and bringing it back in.
Yeah, I think a couple folks along the way over the last 20 years had a couple of C# scripting solutions they tried to build where you could just be able to, use it like a script file, a single file. But yeah, now it's finally all built in.
I think the list is quite long. I remember in 2005 .NET 2 era, I wrote one. I don't think, well, either I didn't know that one existed, but it was some code to take a file, create a custom app domain, do the compilation inline, and then run it. Just because we needed some flexible scripting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I think a tool named, what is it? CS Script? Is that the name of a tool? I think I remember.
Yeah, I think there was CS Script, and I think there was one that was the other way around too, Script CS.
Script CS, yeah.
Yeah. I think Glenn Block might have been involved in one of those. I forget which one he worked on.
Yeah. But I'm really excited for .NET 10 and just all the simplicity and performance that it comes with. Because, like, you could say, do we really need any new language features? Well, maybe, but what we always need is better performance, lower memory usage.
Every year we get that.
Now, you're writing docs all the time for these. Is .NET 10 a really, really good performance release that you've seen, or has every release, improved performance and this is just another linear improvement?
So it seems like at least over the last maybe 2 or 3, there's been some pretty significant improvements with each one. And I saw something about the memory improvements this time too. Memory is drastically reduced. There was something that's, I forget what it is, but the minimal APIs in .NET from .NET 8 to .NET 10, it's reduced the memory use by something like 93%. That's pretty drastic.
Well, just a use case just popped into my head. I remember a time 20 years ago when starting up a .NET application was kind of a big deal. It had a minimum working set. It took a few seconds, and you didn't just run a command line and start it up and have it be instantaneous. It took a little bit to get going. Whereas now the minimal case is so refined that it's almost like running a PowerShell command line, that you could just take a .cs file, run a command line, have it do a little bit of something, and then finish. It just feels almost like a PowerShell command. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the minimal command line stuff is super fast now.
So what I'm wondering is this new era of batch scripts, of little scripts that we just put on a scheduler, and especially with Copilot being command line. Would we do Copilot-P with the little prompt of create a .NET script that does something and then run the .NET script?
Yeah, absolutely. And now with Copilot, you can tell it to do any language you want.
Right.
If you don't know Python, you could have it do that. But yeah, now you could use .NET just as well as any of the others.
So when it comes to, I mean, the Copilot command line is, they announced the preview. Yep. I know you don't do docs for everything. What's your impression of where these auto coding tools are going?
They seem to be really good at, in certain areas, awesome at generating unit tests for you. All the simpler things, you can get it to take some PRs for you, make some fixes. You can go review those. There's still humans involved in everything, of course, having to review the stuff. We're trying to do similar kind of workflows with the docs to have, Copilot make some edits for us and we review it before we commit any of those changes. Yeah, they're getting better and better all the time. It's hard to really predict how quickly they're going to, take the next step and be able to, create whole applications.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a philosophical question, but why do we need applications? I mean, I remember when the internet came around, there was this way to, hypertext transfer protocol. There was this browser thing, and originally it was just for access to documents. Before the World Wide Web came about, it was just sharing of files, right? Sharing of documents, right. Directories of documents, and then the World Wide Web, and it's like, wait a minute, we can create kind of this dynamic web page type of document where it's a mix of a brochure, and then it's like, oh, we can do forms on here. And like every form, it was carbon copies, write it out in paper. We had the PDF, and then it's like, okay, take literally every form, became digitized, and now we had this era of fill out the form, go to the next step, fill out the form, go to the next step. And I'm just wondering, do we need that in order to do transactions anymore?
Yeah, it's a really good.
Well, with MCP servers, and I know I'm asking you this question, I'm kind of opining on myself, but with MCP servers being kind of like a new protocol in parallel, maybe as a sibling to web services, is the future just, popping up some, language bridge and maybe dynamic UI bridge application, and then it's just calling an MCP server that adapts the call into your software system to do a transaction? Like if I want to book an airline, do I really want to use their online booking application and go through their screens, or do I want to just talk to the computer and say, hey, what flights are available? Oh yeah, do that one, book it.
Yeah, it feels like that's where things are headed, where all these applications will just become essentially APIs that can be consumed by, these different assistants.
And your career and mine, how many years has it been when the UI toolkits and the controls and the paradigm just gets replaced?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a new UI paradigm every few years. We get something, thrown out there. I started with, dragging and dropping VB3 controls.
Yes. Yeah. VB3 and then 4, 5, 6, and then into .NET WinForms, and then WPF, few versions of that. Silverlight 8. And we've had so many different versions of HTML. Yeah, it's been the web, but the web of the late 90s, very different from the web of the early 2000s, and jQuery. And then, so I'm wondering,
all the frameworks exploded from there.
Right. And even like Angular and React of today, which is so popular, I mean, they're stupidly complicated. Of course, the people listening is like, it's not complicated. You just need to learn it. It's like, I get it. But I mean, it's not. How many concepts just to get things going, and we've wrapped it, and then the CS is like this, and which CS framework are you using? But are we in the new UI paradigm where it's just like, oh yeah, here's a little chat interface, whether it's Copilot or whatever interface it is, and if the software system that I want to use has the MCP server, like I want to call it MCP API because it really is a different type of application programming interface, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is different. It's an API, but it's a different kind of API.
But if a software system has that adapted, then we could just use a chat interface, couldn't we? For a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, you can just type your questions in, you speak your questions, whatever you prefer.
Now, the interesting part would be if it can do like just a dynamic UI and show things, like show headers and show a data grid. It's all the same stuff. It's lists of things. It's a grid of things. It's, and if it can just dynamically put that together.
Yeah, make it a little more structured input instead of that free-flowing stuff that it has to interpret.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's enough of my opining. So with .NET 10's out, Visual Studio 2026 is out. What is Alvin Ashcraft thinking about these days when you're just your brain is fully in tech world?
Well, let's see, fully in tech world. So I've been doing a lot of coming up with different talks. I've got some sessions put together. I'm doing a .NET Maui session and a few events coming up. So I've been busy updating all those projects to .NET 10 and making sure everything still works as expected. So yeah, I enjoy Maui and those other platforms. I have some Uno stuff I like to work on. I've been looking into doing another book, talking to Packt about an MCP book for .NET developers. Maybe not writing myself, but being a co-author on that possibly. So we'll see how that shakes out. Interesting stuff. Diving more into the AI world every day. It's the extension I did with VS Code. I worked with Copilot on that a little bit. JavaScript isn't my favorite thing to work on, so have it do some of that for me.
So you're writing another book. Do you have a working title yet, or not quite?
It's not set in stone yet. It will be something like MCP for .NET developers. Focusing on
definitely an AI book.
Yeah, definitely an AI book. Definitely focused on creating MCP servers with .NET.
Awesome. Yeah. And you've also been a technical reviewer for multiple books, and of course, you need technical reviewers when you're an author of a book just to help find things. There's probably some listeners out there that are thinking, man, that's really cool. Who do I even talk to? How could I be a technical reviewer? What are the requirements to be a tech reviewer?
You just need to, be passionate about technology, know a little something about it to be able to provide good feedback. But really, they look for different levels of tech reviewers because, a book may be targeting beginners. So it would be good to have a beginner in the tech do the tech review to see if it's an appropriate level. So yeah, but just you can reach out to the folks at Packt. There's contact info on their site, and they're always looking for folks.
And if someone's listening and saying, "Okay, sign me up," how do they get signed up?
Yeah, it's not straightforward on the website. They're welcome to reach out to me. I have a few contacts I can point them to, and they can reach out to their contacts in maybe the appropriate area. Mine are mostly .NET folks, but they have other areas that they work on too.
All right, we'll include a link in the show notes, alvinashcraft.com, so they can find you for your book. And I think your contacts are in Packt Publishing.
Yep.
That's been something I've noticed. Every publisher doesn't have the same or the clear. It's almost like you have to figure out how to get in touch with people. But it does seem to be the same that once you speak to somebody and just kind of raise your hand, they're always looking for reviewers, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're always looking for folks to help out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, as we kind of close up, and is there any announcements or anything we want to leave the listeners with?
Let's see, announcements. Well, just remember TechBash 2026 will be coming October 13th to the 16th. And if you're a speaker, we'll be opening our call for speakers probably in early March sometime. So if you go to the website, you can sign up for the newsletter there. You get notified about all those things, that when tickets go on sale, there's call for speakers, all that stuff.
Awesome. And kudos to the way you guys run the conference. Some people might think, oh, I've never spoken at a conference before. I'm not qualified. But you guys really encourage people to, first-time speakers. If anybody's listening that really thinks that they want to try it out, you encourage those submissions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We love to get first-time speakers in, give them a shot. And, the more experienced speakers that we have are always, happy to help mentor and give them tips.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. You always know an expert because they're sharing what they know. In other words, if someone's not sharing what they know, how can you call them an expert? They're just a silo. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Alvin, thanks so much for coming on the podcast and visiting with us again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Awesome. And until next time, dear listener, keep shipping.
You've been listening to the Azure and DevOps podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Visit our sponsor, ClearMeasure, at www.clearmeasure.com. And on behalf of your host, Jeffrey Palermo, thanks for listening, and may God bless you.